Hello, good people, but now you know the deal. If the camera angle is off, it's not by design and blind, and it comes with the territory.
Thinking behind it.
You know, we often lament how sad the state of politics is in South Africa in as far as politicians are concerned. But so too can the same argument be made about the voters, right? The people who participate in these politics. Maybe it's the influencers, and because they make so much noise, therefore then people like me mistakenly make this generalization. But it's really, really sad. It's really, really sad. Right, so I was avoiding talking about the Mkhwanazi matter, simply because, we're working on an episode, hopefully, that will be released, a proper podcast, not just a video. And there's research that just goes into this, right? Because we want to give people in-depth facts and analysis and so on and so forth about it. But anyway, that's besides the point. Look, the ad hoc committee that has been established by Parliament following the Speaker saying so is now in full session, and a number of predictable things have happened, right? And this happens simultaneously, unfortunately, as the Nhlanhla Commission is also occurring. And it's foolishness. Let's just start at that point. Right? It's total idiocy that we find ourselves in this position as a country. Why? Because as much as it is entertaining, which it's not supposed to be, right? Get a Netflix account or something, or go on TikTok, right? If you're seeking entertainment, that these things are happening at the same time. Why? Because the one could have been used to reinforce the other, and it can only do so substantially or substantively when the one completes its process. Notably, the commission could complete its processes and then to reinforce what it says or to clarify particularly points of politics, since that's what the inquiry is about by the ad hoc committee. That's when that process could have ensued. But alas, we found ourselves where we do. Now, I want to talk about, in particular, the questioning by parliamentarians. Goodness, people, we gotta have some self-respect. We can't outsource our thinking and now even our emotions to influencers. You can't be told by influencers that, ad hoc committee seems to be acting far better than the commission. Right? These are two different, distinctly processes, right? Like, they serve, in terms of their mandate, different functions. They might be inquiring on the same thing, but in terms of the principle of evidence and the weight of that evidence and how they're going to go about inquiring and investigating, it's going to be different. It's going to be different. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there aren't politics involved in both processes. Indeed, there are. There are politics everywhere, as I often say. But when, at the end of the day, when politicians have questioned General Mkhwanazi, the narrative that seems to be forming is, the ad hoc committee is far better than the commission. You got to be concerned. because it tells you that people are not really grasping what's going on and they're not grappling with the substantive issues at hand, right? For example, like when you study how Mkhwanazi was being questioned by the commission, you recognize that was not about speculations. Yes, Mkhwanazi moved into the terrain of making speculations, and that can only be interrogated once he gets cross-examined. But when you looked at how the commission conducted itself, there was a level of fact-finding that it adhered to, right? It wanted to uphold a certain principle that our evidence needs to meet this level of scrutiny and rigor. And you have a group of practitioners, lawyers, and people who operate within the judiciary applying themselves in that particular setting based on their profession, how they've been trained. And then you have the ad hoc inquiry committee, a group of politicians, scoundrels, right? By their very nature. That basically comes with politicians. They will grandstand. And boy, did they grandstand, right? Let's be said about the MK Umkhonto season and how they were just pathetic from start to end, right? They couldn't even coherently put together a question of substance. Not a single question. Right? Why? And this comes from a party that proclaims its support for the ad hoc committee. And then its members will be like, yeah, sure, we support the ad hoc committee. And of course, in its nature, what follows is that anything from the ad hoc should be validated without scrutinizing what type of person has the party put forward. I mean, for example, how come is the political leader a former judge president, not the person there? Because you need to look at what the ad hoc committee is mandated to do. It's supposed to look at the veracity and the implications of the claims that General Mkhwanazi has made, in as far as the moratorium on the hiring or at least allocation of position is concerned in the SAPS, the unlawful disbandment of the Political Killings Task Team, the PKTT. Those are some of the main ones, right? And also just the involvement in syndicates, criminal ones that relate to drugs, at least that's what he was talking about in the country. There was less of that in the questions raised by politicians and more on gossip. And it seems that based on that principle, whoever had the best skill to form a narrative won the day. So the person that was able to grandstand took the trophy. And then Nizotuguti, Nina, that is what is important to you as a people. So you have a whistleblower and and then the thing that you want to take out, who gets mired in this process, right? Who's implicated? Yeah, no. Right? Whether that is relevant to the inquiry or not, anandab. Whether it meets the recommendations aspect of this ad hoc at a later stage, anandab. And that is what someone like Ufaru did, right? The thing that Faru craftily did, and was able to achieve was to be that person that creates and establishes the best narrative. That's all he was able to do. Go study to what extent Ufaru, right, Julius Malema, was able to stick to the mandate of the ad hoc committee. And you'll find that there was little of that. If anything, he was able to scrutinize his political opponents, notably the MK party in this regard, right? Oh no, Zuma was involved. Ne? Yeah, sure. Tell me, what did Zuma do? Yeah, a little bit more about Zuma. Let's get more information on this Zuma character. Oh, Panyaza. Oh, he has illegitimately established police. Yeah, we were right. And no, guys, that was not the purpose of the mandate. Yes, it's entertaining. But this is not the place where you're supposed to be entertained. And you play into the gimmicks of politicians over and over and over again. And that's why inkinga zena ngeke basithathe serious. They just won't. They will not. Because you don't take yourselves seriously as the public. Nyamanga luguti, why are your streets unsafe? Nyamanga luguti, hey, indlu nendlu is affected by drugs. Our families are being decimated by drug dealers. There are killings. Nifunukala njegiti, but when you have to pay attention at the most critical point, the people who are representing you, you drop the ball. So it's a time for you to reflect on that. There was nothing impressive about Julius Malema in terms of how he asked questions. Apart from, if you want to appreciate his political prowess, which is something that we have established. We know that he's agile, he's smart when it comes to politics. So that's why he was able to craft a narrative. And that's what his achievement was in terms of those questions. Far better than everyone else. But substantively, bonke. Bayafana ngoba the others, where you look at the Democratic Alliance, they were there just to protect themselves. Right? It was a protectionist type of syndicate in terms of Barnard and her involvement, or her being implicated and her being liable for criminal action. Same goes for Ian Cameron. The ANC basically did not know what to do. PA but fearing about subliminal meanings, right? Let's scrutinize what MK means when it's been used by the commission. I mean, this process thus far is so farcical that it even goes outside its own mandate, touching upon the mandate of the commission, which is not what it's supposed to do. And yet you will hail it as a success. It's not successful because at the end of the day, recommendations need to come. So like strategically, right? I've mentioned that ideally the one was supposed to follow the other. But another thing that could have happened is that recognizing that the commission is perhaps going to focus on the systemic problems of policing in South Africa, then how can Parliament intervene on an operational level? That's what perhaps they could have done. And to hone in on the bad apples, so to speak, right? They could have done that. And as a strategy, that could have been an approach. Because that would then reinforce what's happening in the commission. But because these two processes will, in essence, inevitably end up in zilch, nothing, that is why it's a spectacle. You'll be left with nothing but a heap of paper telling you what's a problem and why you're suffering, and no one will want to do anything of significance with it. That's what we have. It's unfortunate, but that's how it's playing out. And hopefully we'll dig in further into this. But I just wanted to raise this so that we can actually reassess and think properly about how we are conducting ourselves as members of the public, right? Don't be swayed by gimmicks, good people. Those just serve to distract you. If you're entertained by your own misery, wow, then our problems are far deeper than what people like me even thought. Anyway, what are your thoughts? Do you agree or disagree?